PragerU. I know PragerU, low-hanging fruit, but it's easy. And after Sydney Watson, I want something easy. God, that woman pisses me off. All right, let's get into this. Let's see what they have to say.
Who's the first woman appointed to the Supreme Court? My guess is that most Americans would answer Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's
I actually don't know the answer to this question.
so famous now that she's often referred to by just her initials, RBG. Elevated to the High Court by President Bill Clinton in 1993, the left-leaning Justice Ginsburg was the subject of not one, but 2 movies in 2018 alone. But she isn't the first female Supreme Court justice. She's the second. The first doesn't have a
I've heard of Sandra Day O'Connor. I didn't know that. Okay.
movie named after her. That's
I probably should. Shit.
because Sandra Day O'Connor was appointed by a Republican president, Ronald Reagan. We hear a lot about the year of
Is Sandra Day O'Connor still on the Supreme Court? Sandra Day O'Connor. Former. Okay. Okay, so she's old as fuck. Born in 1930. In 2005, so 15 fucking years ago, she announced her retirement. And 14 years ago, Samuel Alito took her place. Okay, so 15 years ago, this woman retired. So, of course, she's not talked about in mainstream media. Maybe she should be. But I don't think that her being conservative has anything to do with that. It was just a long fucking time ago, and she's not currently serving. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, though, I guess she's planning on retiring on Christmas, which I hope that the person elected in November is willing to nominate a progressive replacement for her. She's still serving on the Supreme Court, so of course people know about her. And we've moved into the era of media where we make op-ed films about famous people that come from marginalized groups, like a woman on the Supreme Court that's actively serving.
of the woman, the Women's March, and the war against women. But if the major media, the New York
All of those things are modern movements that have taken place in the last decade. Sandra Day O'Connor has not been on the Supreme Court or been serving in a public capacity in 15 years. So, of course, she's not going to be heralded for the Year of Women or the Women's March or the War Against Women, because she wasn't a public figure during the times in which these things took place.
Times, the Washington Post, CNN, CBS, and others were more interested in accuracy than advocacy, it would be that they are promoting the Year of the Leftist Woman or the Leftist Women's March.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not a leftist. I guarantee you that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not an anti-capitalist. I guarantee you she does not support socialism. I guarantee you that she does not support the concept of the means of production being either given to or being seized by the proletariat and the abolition of the commodity form. She is not a leftist. A progressive, sure, but she's not a leftist. However, these marches took place during Ruth Bader Ginsburg's tenure on the Supreme Court, not Sandra Day O'Connor's.
The major media like to pretend that all women think alike and that conservative women are just the exception that proves the rule. But according to a 2018 Pew Research study, about a third of women are Democrats, a little less than a third are Republican, and a little more than a third are independents.
So it seems pretty evenly split. I would venture to guess that these women are younger, these women are older, and this is kind of a mix between the two, because old people tend to be conservatives. There's this old adage that the older you get, the more conservative you get. And while that was true for the longest time, that was because the older you got, the more wealthy you got. And the more wealthy you are, the more appealing conservative politics scene because it lets you keep more of your money. For the first time in at least modern history, that's proving to be false, because the older that people are getting under the current economic model, they're staying progressive. They're staying left-wing or left-leaning, because in this day and age, in 2020, age does not correlate to wealth in the same way it did 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Strange that.
So if there are all these conservative women around, how does the media make it seem like they barely exist? They use three
They don't. Fox News reports on them all the time because they like to use them as tokens.
strategies. The first is omission. If you don't see something, you don't have to deal with it. Open up a glossy magazine. Every liberal woman is glamorized, stylishly dressed, beautifully photographed. Their personal stories are almost always an inspirational version of Joan of Arc.
Famous women tend to be more progressive. It's just... they do it for good PR. I guarantee you that there are plenty of progressive women or famous women that espouse progressive viewpoints while not necessarily holding them themselves, because they know that their fans are predominantly young people, because it's the young people that tend to be more involved with and sometimes obsessed with famous people and celebrity in this country. And if they started espousing right-wing talking points, it would disillusion their younger fans. But newspapers report on famous people. If famous people happen to be liberal or left-leaning, that seems like a coincidence to me.
They have overcome...
And there are plenty of right-wing and right-leaning news outlets and tabloids that focus exclusively on conservative women.
overwhelming obstacles to make the world a more compassionate and tolerant place.
Yes.
Glamour magazine recognized 11 Democrat women among their 2018 Women of the Year. No Republican made the cut.
Could it be that Glamour magazine is a left-leaning publication? If you don't like the fact that the majority of publications are left-leaning, start your own. Start your own magazine and focus on exclusively right-leaning women that are famous. You're not going to do that because it's, one, not profitable, two, print media is dying, and three, there aren't that many.
First Lady Michelle Obama was on the cover of Vogue 3 times.
Could it be because she was the most powerful woman in America as the first lady? Could it be that, and not because she's black or because she's a liberal?
First Lady and former fashion model Melania Trump? So far, not once.
Again, Vogue is a left-leaning tabloid.
Every now and again...
Of course, they're not going to put the first lady of a far right-wing Republican presidency on the cover of Vogue or Vox or whatever because they're left-leaning publications. Make your own right-leaning publications. And I've seen Melania Trump on the cover of many magazines at the grocery store. Not nearly as many as Michelle Obama, sure, but that's because a lot of print media is left-leaning because that's where they're going to get their audience from, because print media is dying. And so they need to get as many clicks as they can.
The major media will do a story about a female conservative to balance things out. But let's be honest, it's not balance.
Well, they do it, but it's not good enough. We want more, is what they're saying.
It's tokenism. The second strategy the media uses to diminish conservative women is mocking. Making fun of a woman's appearance discounts what she says.
The right does this all the fucking time. Holy shit. Do you not remember when Obama was in office and the right-wingers were constantly talking about how she was a man and how some people were comparing her to a monkey and being fucking racist and transphobic towards Michelle Obama because they didn't like her, because they didn't like her husband? Right-wingers do this all the fucking time. Holy shit.
You would think the major media would resist this kind of objectification, but they don't. Not if the target is a conservative woman. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary.
I like how they talk about how the left shits on the appearance of conservative women and then draw this incredibly unflattering picture of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. A little hypocrisy right there.
And Kellyanne Conway, the first woman to run a winning presidential campaign, are routinely belittled for their hair, their eye makeup, or their weight.
And they're way more often belittled for their reductive and reactionary political views and just the bullshit they spewed on camera. Notice they're not on camera anymore. I watched a lot of CNN, MSNBC, and left-leaning Democrat news outlets. Rarely did they bring up her appearance, her hair, her eye makeup, her weight. The vast majority of what they talked about was the shit that they were saying. Individuals online may make fun of them for these things, but it's not the mainstream media that is hyper-focused on these things. Not in the same way that the right-wing media was focused on Michelle Obama's appearance.
Their significant accomplishments, in contrast, are rarely acknowledged. Why? Because the media doesn't like their boss, and it treats women who work for him as traitors to their sex.
Holy shit, it was almost like Fox News did the exact same fucking thing when Obama was in office. You're just whining because it's happening to you now, and you weren't used to it after 8 years of being able to dunk on the other side.
The third strategy the media uses to demean conservative women is labeling. Using stereotypes precludes there being a valid reason for conservative women to hold the positions they do. The major media simply can't accept that conservatives have serious and important reasons for their beliefs, so they have to come up with answers to explain this seeming anomaly to themselves. These women must be racist or self-hating.
Yes. Next.
Or just weak-minded. Here's how Barbara Streisand put it to the Daily Mail in England. A lot of women vote the way their husbands vote. They don't believe enough in their own thoughts.
That's patriarchy. That's a legitimate thing. So many women will vote the way their husbands do to not draw their ire, because they don't feel safe in their own home voicing their own opinions. My wife and I disagree on things politically. Not that much, but she feels perfectly comfortable voicing her disagreements with me because she knows I'm not dangerous, because I'm not going to beat the shit out of her or withhold any sort of luxuries that she has because she doesn't agree with me. But there are thousands, if not millions, of men across this country that would do exactly fucking that if their woman stepped out of line. Their woman. Fuck. Sorry, I used to be like a reactionary chud, so sometimes that language still slips in. I'm working on it.
Labeling, like the strategies of mocking or omission, is just another way to display contempt and demonize conservative women. Its purpose is to persuade you to not treat those being labeled with respect, to ignore their ideas, and to even avoid associating with them.
So everything that they've listed here, every single thing happens to conservative men as well. They're just focusing on that because they know that the left-wing media and the left in general will listen to issues more when they're presented as a woman's issue. They're using women as tokens to try and push this narrative that conservatives are mocked and not listened to, and they rightly shouldn't be. Yeah, this video is incredibly stupid.
Not surprisingly, the vilification that results discourages a lot of conservative-leaning women from running for political office, or
You mean like the QAnoner that just got elected into fucking Congress in, I believe it was Florida, that chased reporters around a convention trying to spew her QAnon bullshit to them and had to be removed by security, yet still won her election into Congress, and she's going to be voting on laws in our country despite believing in a conspiracy theory bullshit? You mean those kinds of people that are still doing these things despite the fact that you're saying they're not? It kind of runs against your narrative.
even from speaking up. Who needs that grief? It takes a strong person to swim against the media tide. But here's the thing about swimming.
Everybody in the public square has to swim against the media tide, left-wingers and right-wingers alike. Are you saying you guys are weak and can't handle it, but left-leaning women can? Have you seen online the amount of shit that AOC and Ilhan Omar get from right-wing media, and yet they're still incredibly vocal and very key people in our government? I have seen so much shit talked about these women, and yet they're still able to do what they need to do and speak their minds freely because they're strong enough to do it. If you're not strong enough to handle it, then don't do it, I guess. Everybody in the public sphere is going to get mockery. Everybody in the public sphere is going to get shit on. If you can't handle it, don't do it.
Swimming against the tide. It makes you stronger. Maybe that's why Nikki Haley can stand up in the UN and tell the truth, or why Candace Owens can question the devotion.
Candace Owens is a right-wing grifter. She went from being incredibly far left-wing and creating a website to dox people, including children, for hate speech and things that they said online in a database called Social Autopsy. Then she went offline for about 6 months to a year and then came back and was suddenly incredibly right-wing. She is very clearly a grifter, and she is used by almost every single fucking conservative outlet on YouTube and in media as a token black person and as one of the good ones. Candace Owens is shit.
To progressive policies that have so hurt blacks, or Ayaan Hirsi Ali can take on the cause of truly oppressed women, those living in radical Islamist societies.
Well, nobody's denying that in the Islamic world that women are oppressed. We're dealing with issues in America.
We need these voices and more like them.
And we've been in the Middle East for 20 years and haven't done anything about the oppression that women face over there. You'd think if we cared about it, if anybody ever actually in our government actually gave a shit, we would have been doing something about it for 20 years. But we haven't. This is just virtue signaling.
That's why it's so important to encourage a more respectful, inclusive debate.
This is civility politics right here. You guys are being mean to me. You guys are wrong because you're mean.
We should want everyone at the table, both sides of the political spectrum.
No. We don't want Republicans. We don't want conservatives. We don't want the alt-right. We don't want fascists. We don't want white supremacists and white nationalists at the table. There's no room at the table. You can't sit with us.
Listening with civility.
You have to be polite. Again, civility politics.
That way we can be better informed and make better decisions. So if
having right-wingers at the table is not going to make us make better decisions. I can guarantee you that.
If you hold conservative views, you have a particularly important role to play. You need to speak out to your friends, your family, and your coworkers. Let them hear your thinking, and then let them make up their own minds.
And if your ideas are stupid, they're going to call you stupid, and then you're going to be a snowflake about it. Just like this woman is being.
The media may pretend you don't exist. They may even mock or label you. They want to intimidate you into silence. That's not fair, and that's not right. Don't let them.
It's not fair.
I'm Heather Higgins, chairman of Independent Women's Forum for Prager University.
All right, so that was fun. That was a lot of complaining and whining about people not being nice when you have reductive, reactionary, and just plain stupid views. They are trying to push a narrative that conservative women are somehow silenced in this country, and it doesn't happen to left-leaning and liberal women when the majority of the shit thrown at women that I see go towards people like AOC and Ilhan Omar and Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris. As much as I disagree with a few of their with those people's politics, some more than others, they get shit on way more than right-leaning women. Like I said, a fucking QAnon believing woman from, I believe it is Florida, just got elected to Congress. This is bullshit. You are complaining about a non-issue. It's not my fault that most women recognize that they're being oppressed by men and choose to be left-leaning. I would like it if they chose to be leftists, but I'll accept liberal. It's better than being a conservative, in my opinion.